Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your husband's conscious effort so that you feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm talking about how to save a marriage when only one of you is trying. My guest Liliana and her husband tried to fight quietly, but sometimes they spiraled out of control. This was affecting the kids who were drifting. She was terrified that they would divorce or separate, and she'd have to go back to her parents, who always told her her husband would eventually do this to her. But then Liliana did something radical, and she has something she's never had before. Her relationship feels easy. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. One of the coaches sent in the worst relationship advice of the week nominee from a syndicated advice column, and the coach wrote, "This one was shocking for me." Me too. All of that's coming up. But first, I'm going to talk about how to save a marriage when only one of you is trying. It's frustrating when you know your marriage is broken and yet your husband won't do anything about it, like nothing. He won't read a marriage book. He won't go to counseling, won't even have a conversation about it. It can make you crazy. I mean, why even try yourself if he's not going to do anything, especially if the problems are mostly his fault? Then it really seems hopeless that things will ever improve. I remember feeling this way early on in my marriage. I was dreadfully unhappy and I felt neglected and overburdened with the finances and the household chores. And I often fantasized about divorce, which seemed like it would solve all of my problems. But I knew divorcing would have some drawbacks too. So I decided to try to get my husband to shape up instead. And as Catherine Aird said, if you can't be a good example, you'll just have to be a horrible warning. So here's what I learned about what not to do. Number one, ask your husband to read marriage books or blogs or listen to podcasts. I thought John should read marriage books, especially the ones that I was reading, being the very good wife that I figured I was. And that way he would understand what he should be doing better, but he wouldn't read them. That hurt because I believed that meant our marriage was not that important to him. So I read the books to him, but that didn't seem to help matters at all. I bet you can see why, huh? Number two, don't have a State of the Union address on the couch. I would try to get my husband to talk, to have this State of the Union address where we'd figure out what he was doing wrong. And then I'd say, if there's anything you want me to do differently, I'm totally open. Just say so. But mostly, I just wanted him to realize how awful he was being and to make an effort, any kind of effort, to improve. But he refused. And that hurt even more because even though he knew, because I told him what he should do differently, like the dishes, he wouldn't do those things. And this proved he was an uncaring, inconsiderate slob. Number three thing not to do, didn't work for us. Go to marriage counseling. When he was obviously avoiding those conversations and most conversations with me, I insisted that we go to marriage counseling. And my intention was to have someone else tell him how wrong-headed he was so that he would finally see the error of his ways and improve. And he didn't so much agree to this as he finally gave in to my constant nagging about it, probably to shut me up. So we went. And wouldn't you know it, that didn't work either. Over $9,000 and more than a year later, I was on the counselor's couch, more convinced than ever that I should end my marriage. But I couldn't go through with it. Too embarrassing. So I got some ideas from wives with happy marriages. And of course, those ideas sounded pretty wacky to me, but I was desperate and he was never going to change any other way. So I was out of options. And a funny thing happened when I decided to experiment with those wacky ideas, which I hoped would make my husband shape up. I started to notice it. Maybe I was part of the problem, like a little. And then after a while, I realized I was like half of the problem. And then a little while later, after I apologized to my husband for the umpteenth time, it occurred to me that I might have been like a lot of the problem, like so much. And sure, I was the only one trying to save my marriage, but I'd been doing all the wrong things. So that was informative and very painful also, but enlightening, and that enlightenment began when I started doing the number one thing to save my marriage when he wasn't trying. And of course, I'm referring to getting back onto my own paper. That's number one. Now, my paper is where all my decisions are, like what I do with my time, my attitude, how I care for myself, my tone of voice, what time I go to bed. Everybody else has their own papers too, like, say, my husband. But mostly what he's doing on his paper is his responsibility and not mine. And of course, I have influence over my husband's decision. I have a lot of influence, but I was squandering it when I was constantly telling him he had to improve. He spent most of his energy defending himself against me. Poor guy. I was also avoiding my own paper because I'd been trained not to think about myself, not to be selfish and not to be too demanding either. I didn't want anyone to think I was selfish and demanding. So I became controlling and overbearing instead, focusing on what I thought my husband wanted or should want or should do, which I can't control. So just because I can't control his paper doesn't mean I'm never going to get what I want. It's just the opposite in my experience. And this is the number two way to save a marriage when you're the only one trying, by figuring out exactly what I wanted and then honoring my desires, even if I was uncomfortable desiring those things. Once I knew what I wanted, other people, like my husband, didn't have to guess. I could just tell him what I desired. And to my surprise, that was very motivating to him to fulfill on my desires. So when I reflected on my true desires instead of my complaints, as I had been doing, and I expressed those in a way that inspires my husband, he started racing to give me what I wanted. And all those things that I complained about wanting him to change back in the bad old days, well, they were unexpressed desires that are now fulfilled. Then I felt so much less hurt and upset because it was clear that my husband did care about me once I saw that he wanted to fulfill my desires. So, which brings me to the third thing to save a marriage when you're the only one trying, and that is by getting happy. Got to get happy. I was waiting for him to make me happy, and he couldn't because I didn't know how to get happy. And it turns out only happy people have happy marriages, right? I mean, when I got happy and I got pleasable, that gave my husband a glimpse of hope he hadn't seen in a long time, that he could be successful at making his wife happy, which is something that my research shows all husbands care deeply about. But Laura, you might argue, your husband didn't say he was leaving and he didn't threaten divorce. You might argue that it's much harder to save a marriage when you're the only one trying if he's halfway out the door already. And I get it. It's terrifying to feel like saving your marriage isn't up to you. I remember feeling the same way. The illusion was so big that I couldn't improve my marriage, that I was stuck. I was permanently stuck. And I still remember being astonished that it was absolutely in my power to change the course of my marriage and my life by starting on my own paper. So I'm always hopeful and curious to know what might be possible for you if you start focusing on your own paper too, even if you're the only one trying to save your marriage. Something big is happening on the Laura Doyle campus, and you're invited. In January, I hosted a free 5-day Adored Wife Challenge, and thousands of women joined to take the practical steps to make their marriages last and thrive. And even I was amazed at the astounding results they got. We're about to start the 5-day Adored Wife Challenge again, where I'll share my best stuff for free. And the coaches are hosting a week of pre-challenge inspiration starting on August 15th, 2022. So register now at lauradoyle.org/challenge so you don't miss any of the action, because this only happens twice a year. Join us on our mission to end world divorce and go to lauradoyle.org/challenge. I'll see you there. My guest Liliana and her husband tried to fight quietly, but sometimes they spiraled out of control. This was affecting the kids, who were drifting. She knew she was losing them, especially her teenage son. And she was terrified that they would divorce or separate, and she'd have to go back to her parents, who always told her he would eventually do this to her. But then Liliana did something radical. And while it's still a work in progress, she says her marriage now feels fun and that the whole family can't wait to hang out together. And she has something she's never had before. Her relationship feels easy. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. Liliana, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. So great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really excited to share so early on in my journey.
Awesome. Well, take us back to the beginning. What was going wrong? What was happening in the bad old days in your marriage?
You mean 4 months ago?
Yeah, right then. Exactly.
Well, 4 months ago, we had a really big fight because my son stormed and he told me off. And I felt like, yet again, this was my husband's fault, because if he had him in line, my son wouldn't feel comfortable talking to his mother this way. I felt horrified that I usually do say things back, but that day I didn't. I was just watching it unfold, and I just felt like this is horrible. I can't go on like this. My son is telling me off, and my husband is just sitting there watching the whole thing. So I left that day. I dropped him off at school, and he left the doors open. He left all mean, and I was just so upset with him about how he had done this. And then I immediately called my husband and I gave it to him. I told him off. I said, this is all your fault. Like now my son is respecting me the way you respect me. Like, this can't go on like this. And he was working because he works from home. He works on the computer. So I actually left the house for the whole day, and I didn't come back until after midnight. I had packed a bag and I went to a friend's house. And then I guess, like always, I just come back because I want things to get better, but not like that. So after that, I left, and not long after that, he told me he was done with the marriage.
Whoa. So you were already in a lot of pain, and you left for the night, but you came back. So were you thinking about being done with your marriage too, or that really started with him?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I have threatened divorce and all those things over and over again, but not necessarily. I mean, also for him to shape up, but I was also really suffering. I also felt like I can't endure this. And
Yeah.
I felt like with my kids, like when I saw my son acting like wait over and over again, like there was no discipline, I just felt like this, even if it's just for the kids, I can't stay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it must have felt horrible to have your son telling you off like that. He's like a cookie cutter of his father, is what I hear you saying, right? Yeah. Well, it sounds awful. So then he said he was done with the marriage. How did you respond to that?
Oh, I was devastated. Well, after that, we kind of made up a little bit. After that fight, we were okay. And then I had to go to another state because my tenants had left. So I said, okay, I'll travel there with my daughter and I'll come back in 3 weeks. He said 3 weeks. Don't go for longer than that. So after like 4 or 5 days that I had arrived, he said he was done. He said, I'm really sorry. I know this is going to really hurt you. And we were doing okay. Like we were talking okay. It's just that the fights just don't stop. We've been married 22 years, 23 tomorrow, and the fights don't stop.
Yeah. So there's been fighting for a lot of years.
Yeah, since the beginning. Since the beginning.
And what kinds of things were you fighting about?
Well, I guess and it's like now is the kids, because I feel like I want more discipline, I want more control in a way. I want them to do better things. And he doesn't want to control them. It's almost like he's been telling me the stuff from these books in his own way without knowing what he was saying. Like he has often told me that I don't respect them, that wives are supposed to respect their husbands. And I was just like, no, you're supposed to earn it. Like how am I going to respect you? Like, so he's told me that for a long time. So yeah, I don't know. We were due. So I left, and he said he was done. He said, I'm really sorry. And he didn't do anything like legal. He just said, I need separation. He was afraid of saying anything legal wise because it always like sets me off or makes me really mad. So he just left it at that. So when he said, I'm done, maybe you can live somewhere else, or we can look for another place, I decided to just stay away. So I stayed away in another state for 3 months until he came a month and a half ago.
Yeah. So you guys separated when he said this.
Well, yeah, because I didn't want to go back to Utah and just be in separate houses with no support, no friends. I felt like if he's really leaving me, I need to, even before I found your book, because I found your book like, I don't know, like right after, 2 weeks after. But I felt like I need support. I can't be alone. I'll sink. So I just stayed away, and I was like, okay, then I'll see you in the summer when the kids are done school and you bring them over.
So, and you had your daughter, and you have, how many children do you have?
I have 3 kids. So I had my youngest daughter with me because she was in skiing. So I just put her in school here. And that way it wasn't so painful. Like, even though the kids were separated, I was like, we will decide later what to do without making too much damage. But I thought I can't just be completely alone because that will be too devastating. And he said, okay.
Yeah. How did this affect the kids?
Well, my youngest daughter didn't know. I don't think she still knows. Mm-hmm. She just missed them, and she said she wanted to go back, and we both told her not now. And my other 2 kids, they were saying that they wanted us to split, that they were sick of the fighting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they were telling him, and I was thinking, like, this is actually working against me. Like, even the kids are telling him now, like, please just split up already.
Oh, ouch. That must have really been painful to hear them saying that.
Yes, very painful.
Well, so what happened?
So I stayed away, and a year ago, we also had a huge fight in Moab in Utah, and he left me there, and I felt like that was all him, like the way the fight went. Looking back, I can see the disrespect, which was huge. Like, so what happened was that we were in Moab. I was really excited about this trip. I had planned the whole trip and like going canyoneering and stuff with the kids, and he screwed up, and he had work in between. So he wasn't able to be with us. He had to be like on the computer working. And he told me like one night he left, he was like kind of like teary-eyed. He said that he was feeling really bad about how he had done that. And I was so disgusted. I was just like, so on top of doing all this by myself, like I always do it, now I have to like be there like as your mom and like, shelter that feeling. So I was just like, no, that's not fair. I was like, maybe like think about it next time ahead of time and try to plan right. So I told him off. He got disgusted with how I commented, but he didn't say anything. So on the day that we were leaving, I was driving to make sure that because everybody was really hungry, and I was like, okay, I'll drive. That way you guys can eat in the car, and we have a 4-hour ride back, and you can be okay. And I went over a bump a little bit too hard because I decided like, oh, should I slow down? It was like already too close to it. So I went over the bump, and he went off on me. He told me that it was just a bump, so like their foot jumped a little, and he told me that I almost killed them, that I always do that I can never pay attention to the road, and he went off on me, and I was so disgusted. I was just like, stop it. And he said that I'm a child. So then I was like, okay, I need to get out of the car. Like, this is too much. You really are insulting me. I was driving for the sake of all of you, and now you're going off on me. So I got out of the car and he told me to go back in, but he was screaming at me and he was telling me to get back in the car because I was acting like a child. And I was like, this is horrible. So I didn't get back in the car. So he left.
He left you?
He left me. Yeah. He left with the kids and he never called and he never turned back.
Wow. What did you do?
Well, I guess I cried for hours and then I met some, I don't know, some Hispanic cleaning ladies that helped me get a ride because there's no way to get out of Moab if you don't have a car. You can't rent a car or anything. And then I
Wow.
wrote on this exercise post or blog on Facebook. I wrote the story, right? Like what happened, because I was just like, what am I doing here? Like this man is evil. This is horrible. And I got tons of responses, but I couldn't access them because I didn't know how to use the Facebook part that is like, if they're not your friends, I couldn't access those messages. So just when I moved here, like 4 months ago, my cousin was visiting and she's like, oh, look, you have all these messages on Facebook that you've never opened. And I was like, oh, I didn't know how to open them. So she showed me. And when I opened them, there were lots of advice, lots of responses, all those people that had responded to me. And one of them said, oh, I feel for you. Why don't you give this book a try? And that's all it said. And it was weird because everybody else said all kinds of stuff about him and how I shouldn't be in this relationship, how he's a narcissist, how they've done this before. And this person just said, oh, you should look at this book. So I ordered it. But I'm not into self-help books because my husband is a psychiatrist and I've heard it all.
Right, right. Now this was gonna be my next question. Had you tried marriage counseling or anything like that to fix this marriage before?
A little bit. I mean, yes, I've tried it all here and there, and I've also tried all the advice, communication, the stupid love languages. I've tried all that stuff, but it doesn't work. It settles things down for a period, and then the fights just come back, and the disrespect and the taking advantage of each other, leaning on each other. It just all came right back and worse. Every time it would come back, it would be worse.
Mm. All right. So you open these Facebook messages. Most of them are saying he's a narcissist. You should leave him, that kind of thing. But one of them says, read this book, which probably sounded pretty weird.
Yes, it sounded pretty weird.
Like, who says that? Like, they should be taking your side, right? From the way you shared the story, probably. Most of them did, but not this.
No,
person.
she wasn't sharing my side. Everybody else was sharing my side.
Except for her. Yeah, read this book. So, but you decided to read a book from that post?
Well, I mean, I didn't know what to do. I was just like, this is like, I don't want my marriage to fall apart. I don't want to tell my families. I don't want my kids to all be dispersed. Like, I want this. And he's not a bad guy. I know that. I just felt like if he could just shape up a little bit,
Yeah.
like be a little more romantic or show up more or not screw up every time we go anywhere. Like if he could just do a few more things would be better.
Then your marriage would be happy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that wasn't working out. You told him that with things he needed to change, I'm sure, right?
Yes, I started with the sex part. I told him the things he needed to change to make me happy during our sexual relationship. And once he didn't hear that, I told him louder. And once he didn't hear that, I told him madder. And it didn't work.
It didn't work. And so what happened to the sex in your marriage? Was that going all right? Or did it stop? Or
no, it sucked. It was like he wouldn't initiate. He wasn't into it. Like he didn't want anything to do with me. He was like repelled. And it made me feel really, I don't know, it made me feel really bad. And also I think I was raised the opposite of the skills that you teach in those books. Like, like a man can always betray you. So I was always looking for that.
Mm. Yeah, you mentioned that your parents had, I think, a negative prophecy for your husband.
Yes, they said that he would eventually leave me.
And so you were kind of waiting for that.
yeah, and I was looking for evidence for that. I was looking through his phone, and anytime I would find anything, I was like, oh my God, I'm right again. See? And it's
Yeah.
just like, since I was so miserable, I feel like I found a little bit of happiness in being right.
Yes. Yes. That is profound. I love that, Liliana, because I think that's true. When you're so unhappy, it feels really good to feel right. Like, see, I knew it. I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it still led to more misery, it sounds like.
Yes, it led to more misery. We were fighting. Like one time we tried to go out to the garage to fight, and it was just like we got super loud, and it was after midnight. I didn't know what to do. I was reading advice about don't go to bed mad or let it go for the next day. I just didn't know. I was like, when do we address this? And then he was saying, oh, that's in the past. And I was like, it happened yesterday. How is it already in the past? And I already can't discuss it.
Right. And then you feel like you're never going to get what you need because you never get the chance to talk about it.
Right, exactly. I never get a chance to talk about it.
Yeah. It sounds awful. It sounds awful. And the issue you described to your son was very disrespectful. What else was happening? Because you said your kids were drifting. You felt like you were losing them.
He was always talking back. My son is 14. He was mean. He was mean to his sisters. He wasn't doing any work. He was staying up late and later. And the phone is like he can't have a conversation without the phone or clicking on it. And I was afraid of mentioning it anymore because I didn't see his father saying, okay, put the phone down. And I was thinking, this is not what I wanted. I'm like a really natural person. I don't, I go that way. Like I want to exercise. I want to eat right. I don't want to have electronics. I want to read. And this was the opposite. And I thought the only way to get them in line was through better control. And now that they were disrespecting me, I thought maybe they would respect him if he'd stood up, if only he was more of a man.
Yeah. Yeah. But he wasn't
Yeah.
he wasn't disciplining them.
No, he was valuing the connection. He didn't want to break the connection with them. He was valuing like when he was off work to stay up late with them and hanging out and being playful, and I don't know, he just really enjoys them being happy. So I felt torn. I felt jealous, but also he's paying all this attention to the kids and none to me, and he's having so much fun with them, but he's not disciplining them. But they love him. They adore their father, so he must not be that bad.
Wow. But it probably felt unfair because you were the one that was trying to bring them into line and he wasn't really helping with that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it felt so unfair. It felt like I was carrying everything. I took care of everything. I took care of the trips, the activities, the schools, the house, finding housing. I took care of everything. I never took care of myself because that I was altruistic. My mom
Yes.
taught me to be giving and give to others. And he's tried to buy me all that stuff. He's tried to, one time he bought me 6 massages and I let them go to waste.
Oh, you
And I
didn't
told
take
him
the
that
massages? Yeah.
no, and I told him that he shouldn't have done that. Like, what a waste of money. I didn't even have time to go get them. I
Oh,
gotta say too, I've returned every gift he's ever given me.
oh gosh. Yeah. So it wasn't possible for him to buy you anything to make you happy. It
No.
sounds like it wasn't
And
possible.
things,
Yeah.
yeah, and things with my son were just so then my children came here early. Before he came. He only came a month and a half ago. And so then I had all 3 of them with me. And initially he was really afraid that I would take his money. I don't know why. And separate and stuff. And so his mom was afraid, and his acquaintances or friends were afraid, and they were all telling him. And I never had any intentions to like, mess around with that. It's our money. I know where it is. I want it to be safe. So he told me that a couple of times. And one time I said to him, I was like, I actually don't even care about money. I know I can stand on my own 2 feet, and I know you'll take care of the kids. So money doesn't matter to me at all. Like, I don't even know anything about it.
Wow.
But when my
Wow.
children were here, I just thought I started reading the book and I started doing the skills just because I didn't know what else to do, even though I thought he was wrong, not me.
Yeah.
So I just started apologizing, kind of like saying those things just to see if we could like have a peaceful divorce and a peaceful separation.
So at this point, you're pretty hopeless that your marriage was going to stay together. Your marriage
Well,
was not
he's
going to last. Yeah.
right. You can tell when your husband is decided. You can see it in him. He was done.
So, but you decided to do the skills anyway, just to have a peaceful divorce. And you started with apologizing. What did you apologize for?
To disrespect. The
Really?
outrageous, glaring disrespect about everything.
Oh, so you had an epiphany. You saw things differently. You said your eyes were opened.
Yes, I felt like sure I was disrespectful, but I didn't leave you abandoned at Moab. Like what you did was way worse.
Yes, yes. But you still decided to apologize for your disrespect.
Yeah, I think when I read something about just be clean, be dignified, the rest will come or not, but at least you have that. And I felt like that's really the only thing I can get right now. Is the only thing.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And so how did he respond?
Um, he cried, I guess. He cried.
So it meant a lot to him.
He cried and he said, I wish you were like this, 3 months ago. I wish you would have seen this when I was trying to tell you.
Oh, that must have hurt.
Oh, yeah, it did hurt. And I said, well, I see it now. And I'm happy I see it now. And he said, well, there's nowhere to go now because I can't forgive. I can't forget. And he said, no, I mean, I realized something that I didn't realize before, how bad he felt about who he is as a human being and as a father and as a husband. He felt really, really bad.
Really? How do you know he felt so bad?
He said, he was telling me, he said, I can't be with a woman. I don't want women in my life. I can't be with anybody. I'm not good to anybody. I have to at least be by myself and think if I can even get back to a normal person. But I know that I'm not worth anything and I'm not worth being with anybody.
Wow. So he was feeling very guilty about how he'd shown up too, it sounds like.
Um, I don't know if guilty. I think he was feeling like all those things that I've said about him, that he's not enough of a man, that he can't show up, that he can't do anything right. I think he thought they were true. I think
He
he thought
believed
that,
you. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. How did you respond when he said that?
I said, I'm sorry. I know that I did all of that. I can't believe how much I've told you about what a bad person you are. I've been trying to sink your ship. How could you have even like stay afloat? I've been trying to sink you all these years.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. How did you get yourself to say that? That's a very hard thing to acknowledge, to admit, right? To be accountable like that. That's amazing accountability. How did you
I
do that?
remember that phrase a long time ago. Someone said it. There's my sister-in-law said it. She's like, oh, there's those women that lift up their husbands like the foam, and there's those that sink them. And I always thought, well, I'm definitely not going to be the second one.
Oh,
So I just kept thinking about that phrase, and I was like, oh my god.
wow. Wow. Amazing accountability. So, all right. So what else did you do? What other skills did you try?
Um, I started getting massages. It was kind of painful to sit still and lay down. And the second massage, I fell asleep. I think I just gave in completely.
Wow.
And
And
I
that
started hanging out. Yeah, I started hanging out with my girlfriends and pursuing my interests and letting off of the control of the kids and him.
really, what things did you start pursuing of your interests?
I started seeing more clients. I'm a medical doctor that does nutritional medicine, so I started looking that up more. And I really enjoy crafting and making jewelry. And I started doing a little bit of that. And I love hiking. And I didn't realize I liked hiking because it makes my body so tired. But it's like with a destination, and it was something that I could do alone without any, with anything or making plans or anything. And I felt like, wow, this is really good. So I started accomplishing things and hikes that I hadn't before. And even though it was really painful, I was always really sad. Making my body tired felt good. It felt like I have to keep living.
Yeah. So you were having a lot of grief about your marriage, but yet you also felt good because you were hiking. Is that right?
Yes, I was having a lot of grief, a lot of grief. And everybody that I was talking to was telling me that I was codependent, that I needed to step out of that. And
Okay. What does that even mean?
means that I can't, that I'm pathetic, that I
Means you're
can't.
pathetic. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. You're
It
pathetic.
means that I'm staying in this marriage not because he's good to me or because I love him, but because I need him. And I after reading your books, I got farther than that. I felt like that's not true. I'm staying in this marriage for a lot of reasons. I love him. I love my kids. I love my family. I love doing things with him. He's so active. We always go on climbing trips and really good adventures. There's so much more to it, but I had minimized it to the codependency thing.
Yeah. So are you still codependent, you think? Or
No.
or were you ever were you ever codependent?
No, but I have spent over 20 years with him. So I want him in my life. I want him
Yes.
to
Yes.
still be there.
I just like hearing your process on that because I think you're not the only one who thought she was codependent and yeah, and thought that that meant she was pathetic, right? That you're wrong for wanting to stay in your marriage, right? I had people tell you this. And in a way, it sounds like that never really was helpful to
That
look at it
wasn't
that way.
helpful.
It was never helpful. Okay. And so, all right. So you're taking good care of yourself. You're hiking, you're getting massages, you're making jewelry like those earrings. Did you make those earrings? Those are
No,
pretty.
not this one. I made
Not
the
those ones.
necklaces.
Oh, you made the necks. Oh, wow, that's pretty too. Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. So, so you're feeling happier. You're feeling sad and happy at the same time. Is that right?
Yes, I'm feeling very, very happy, very fulfilled. I'm feeling very empowered. Really, that word really is true. I was talking to some friends and I was just like, I can turn this whole thing around. I didn't know that I was the guiding force of my family. I can feel good and I'm unstoppable now because whether he comes back to me or not, I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be this way. I get to love him and I get to love my kids no matter what anybody says. So I
Wow.
just felt really empowered. I felt like I can keep going like this, dignified and with a clean slate and just with big eyes and watching what's happening with the kids and him. I can keep going with what I have, even if it's painful. I can keep going.
Wow. Amazing. And so, and you weren't, you still were not hopeful that you could fix your marriage, it sounds like.
No, he was set on his ways, and the advice that he was getting, I was really afraid of the advice that he was getting from his corner, from his people, because he's been telling them for years how bad I've been, and they were so happy, rooting for him that he finally made it out. So I felt like there's no way he's going to tell him he's back with me and disappoint them, right? Like, how would that ever happen, right? Like after he finally made the leap, and they were like, "Don't fall back into it," and he's like, "Not this time." So I didn't think we were gonna get back together.
Wow. Well, what happened?
So he said, "Okay, well, I'm done the work here. The kids are all there. I really miss them. I really want to be there." And I said, "Okay, well, why don't you come?" And he said, "Well, I'm afraid." And I said, "Well, how about like you take the other little house next door and or the extra room downstairs, the guest room." And he said, "Okay, we'll try that. And it will be temporarily because he was only going to be here for 2 weeks." And I felt like, well, I have this up my sleeve. I have all these skills that I am going to do the whole time.
Yeah.
So
This is your
so he
chance.
came.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my chance. Yeah. So he came and I mean it was great. Like, he stayed downstairs. He didn't end up staying on the other house, but he stayed downstairs. We stayed each in our own room, and the kids were great. Like I don't fight, and he was afraid that sooner or later I would fight because I have intuitively be calmer and nice when we separated or broke or like when we've had fights before, but it would go back to me being mad about something sooner or later. So he was afraid that that would happen. And he was just shocked that the kids were happy and helpful. My 14-year-old, I actually did that thing with him one time. We went surfing. We came back, and my friends were here, and they were like, all the girls are helping unload the surfboards, and he's like rushing inside to try to get the sand off in a shower because he was uncomfortable. And I felt so upset and disgusted. Like I always feel like he's actually the man of the house now, and he's rushing into the house, leaving all the women by themselves. How disrespectful! Like this is horrible. And I felt like, so instead of storming at him like I would have in the past, I like caught him before he walked inside, and I sweet whispered to his ear. I said, I would really love if you helped us unload the surfboards because you really know where they go and you don't bang them up. And he was like, oh, and he like grumbled a little, but he helped.
Wow. Whereas
And he got,
how would you have said it in the past?
I would have told him off. I would have said, you're a jerk. Like this is all women. You're the only man about here, and all you care about is you. And you're leaving the women with the hard work. Like these are your surfboards. These are our guests. And you just think about yourself again and abandon us. Like that's so horrible. I would have crushed him.
And how would he have responded to that?
He would have cried and he would have helped, but really upset. And then he would have not talked to me for a day or two.
And he wouldn't have helped with the surfboards, I bet, either.
He wouldn't have helped with the surfboards either. He would have just screamed and cried and felt like his mom always destroys him.
Oh,
so he helped. And then he went inside, and 2 hours later, after he was showered and calm and sitting down, I just cuddled up with him and I told him, this is wonderful. I'm really glad because you're getting really strong. You're 14 now, so you can carry everything. And he was really proud. He said, well, sorry, I felt a little like salty, but I'm really glad that I helped you. And I put them away perfectly so that they don't get banged up. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this works this fast. Like, oh my God. I was like, are you kidding me? This is what I should have said to them all along. Like, that sounds so simple. Why didn't I do that?
Because no one ever told you. No one ever taught you before, right?
And he's like, so when my husband came, he saw that about everything. Like, so I wanted my son to help with house chores, and he just doesn't do well with me telling him or interrupt. My husband and my son are similar in that way. They get involved in music and other stuff, and they do not like to be interrupted, their train of thought. So I told him, I went one night when he was in bed, and he loves cuddling and massages. So I touched him, and I was just like, so I really want you to help out with the house chores, but I don't know how to approach you. I don't know how to, like, which ones would be good and which ones would work with you. And it's just, some things would be really helpful. So I'm just like, which ones do you think you could do? And like, maybe in your own time and he said, cause it's summer and he's on holiday, right? So he said, I can do the dishwasher, like when I get up. And he's like, and I can definitely take out the trash and take out the trash cans all the way to the road. I can do all that. And he's like, and I don't mind cleaning up the living room because I love it organized.
Oh. So you're like, who is this child? Like,
so he's been doing that without directions. He doesn't need reminders. Yeah.
You're kidding. You don't even remind him?
No, I don't remind. He told me he didn't want reminders. He said that really makes him mad. So sometimes he doesn't get to it till like the end of the day. And I'm okay with that. It doesn't matter. It's just a dishwasher.
Right. It doesn't have to be perfect, but there's no conflict, it sounds like, over these chores. Is that right?
There's no conflict. There's no conflict ever. So when my husband came, he just saw that. It was just like, he just saw that everybody was more loving. My kids were like, they're constantly telling each other, like my girls are always telling each other they love each other, and they hug me and I hug them. And since I guess I couldn't cuddle him or touch him because we were separated, like I was sitting on the couch always hugging a kid or another one. Like we're always hugging. And it was just like, and they were like that to him. Like if he was leaving the house, they were like, I love you, Papa. And it was like, wow, everybody's so loving here.
he was surprised. You could see the difference.
He was surprised, yeah.
So the whole culture of your home changed when you were using the skills with you're by yourself with your kids, really.
Yeah, everything changed. The one I almost had a breakdown one time that we were all watching a movie, including my husband. He was on the other end of the couch. And I was sitting next to my daughter, and my son wanted that seat because he had the footrest. And he started telling me that he wanted to sit there. And I said, no, I can't give it to you because I'm sitting next to her, and we want to be together tonight because she's had a hard day. And he wouldn't take no for an answer. He's 14. He usually doesn't take no for an answer. Like that's how he works. And he started getting madder and madder and really rude. And my husband actually stood up and said, okay, she's told you that she's not going to give it to you. Like, just pick another seat, right? Like, you're being too much right now. Like, pick another seat. But instead of picking another seat, he then like moved the blankets and started kicking my feet because he wanted me to move again. So at that point, I was ready to like bite his head off. And instead I just breathed and I got up, I went to my room and I just started crying.
Wow.
And it just seems like it changed everybody. Like, I was like, you guys can watch the movie, but I'm not in the mood for it anymore. And I felt like I could, if I know at this point we're not together, if I tell him off, then we're done. Then my husband leaves the house, and I don't want that. So I had no choice but to show them that what I was feeling, because I didn't know what to do. It was so obvious. I was crashing, and I couldn't be my usual, just like strong and telling everybody what to do because they're being like that. So then everything changed. He came to the room, and so did the kids, and he didn't make them. My son just came and he said, I'm sorry.
Oh, Kristen melted you. Were you so
Yeah.
happy? Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Again, I was shocked. Inside, I was thinking, oh my God, I was vulnerable. I was just vulnerable.
You were vulnerable. You didn't know you were going to do that, did you?
No, I didn't know.
You're at the crossroads. You could have gone the old way, and instead you went the new way, which was you're feeling sad that you're getting kicked and kind of bullied into giving up your seat, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And your son saw that vulnerability, and then he naturally wanted to apologize.
Yeah, he got to see his behavior.
Yeah. And you didn't have to tell him how he was being. He just knew. It wasn't how he wanted to be either.
Yeah, that's amazing that they get to see it. I always thought I had to tell them everything. He got to see how his behavior reflects on other people.
Yeah, because you were so soft. Wow. And so your husband came after you and all the kids too, but was that the beginning of you and your husband getting back together?
No, I felt still a lot of upset and turmoil because I feel like these days, it's like at the beginning of that month, it was like we would do good. We would sit together. We would go to the river. We would hang out. We even went, like, he even took me out for my birthday. And then he would go back to being distant and protective. And like, it seemed like he had talked to someone, or I don't know. I told myself I am not going through his phone ever again because that causes me a lot of damage. So I treat it like it's lava and it's red. So I don't want to touch his phone. So I don't care who he talks to. I feel like I'm stronger and I'm more patient than any of those people. So we'll see.
Wow.
We'll see who.
So you had a lot of determination to make the choices that were going to serve you and feel good to you, it sounds like. And even though you're tempted to look at the phone, but you didn't give in to that temptation. How did you, when you would have the thought like, oh, I want to see his phone, like, what did you tell yourself instead?
I would tell myself, well, you know what happened last time you saw his phone? He said that a year ago he was trying to log onto some dating apps. He was telling that to a friend. And even though he says to her, he's like, well, a year ago I attempted that because I was so miserable. Even though it was a year ago, I was ready to storm at him today. Like, I was ready. So I thought last time I checked his phone and I saw that, it sent me into a turmoil, into a huge fight. So I'm not looking at his phone. That's his process. That's how he copes, or whatever happens. I'm not looking at his phone no matter what.
I love it. You made it lava, like touching a hot stove or something. It's just going to burn you. So you're not going to do it. So, all right. So, so you are showing up with a lot of dignity, it sounds like, at this point.
Yes. I have a lot of dignity with my husband, with my kids, with my friends. I have a lot of dignity, and I can say to people I can't, which I couldn't say before. I always looked for a reason. Can I? And I couldn't find a reason why I couldn't help or be there for everybody else. So I always said, yes, I can. And it was wearing me down. I can't do everything.
No, you
So I
can't.
stopped there. Now I stop at I can't. And when people ask farther and stuff, I just keep saying that I
So
can't.
how did you make that true for yourself? Like you said, I used to look for a reason, but I never could think of a reason I couldn't. So I just said yes. How is it true for you now? Why can't you?
Because I value myself, because I can't do things or babysit my friend's daughter again without compromising my time or my self-care or my spending time with my kids, or me being mad at my husband because I'm taking care of his stuff, the stuff that he should be taking care of. So I choose I can't. Like, if he asked me not long ago, he asked me if I could call the internet, because the company, because it wasn't working. And I just said I can't. And I didn't go into further details. He ended up finding a way. He also asked me to take the cars for an inspection, and I said I couldn't.
Yeah. How did it feel to say that?
Well, it felt like I'm the anchor. I'm holding down. This is going to it's going to be rough. He's going to battle me. Him and the kids are going to push my buttons, and they're going to battle me, and they're going to ask me in another way how I can do it. And then just I gotta stay still. I know where this is going. I'm going to respect myself and teach them all how to respect each other. So I'm convinced that that's the right way. It feels right. I even did it with my mom when she wanted to sell my flat in Spain. I'm not there. I can't take care of that right now. And she's just saying that to cause me turmoil, so that she has a reaction from me because she misses me so much. And I said, I can't take care of that right now, but you can do whatever feels right for you. And she kept
Wow.
saying, it's yours. You decide. You have to give me an answer. And I just kept saying, I can't decide, Mom. It's for you. And it works. It works.
Even with mom guilt, I can't help
Yeah,
you stay on your paper, it sounds like.
it works. Yeah, that thing about my paper and someone else's paper, it works. And it was always control out of fear of, the kids not having opportunities, or my husband missing out, or not doing the right thing, not showing up as a man. Is full of fear. So now I let them be. I know that I'm going to love him, even if he's not a man 100% of the time, and even if the kids miss opportunities, I'm going to love them. So
Wow.
it
You
feels
choose
it
it.
feels more peaceful.
It feels more peaceful. Yeah, you're smiling as you're saying it. So this you're choosing love. And what about when the fear comes up though, and you're thinking, "Oh no, they're not going to get this opportunity." And the old
I go hiking, I go for a long walk, and I get in Cold River, and I talk to friends. I mean, I can't talk to that many friends. I have to undo all the damage that I have done about talking bad about him. But there's one girl that she said, "Oh my God, girl, you look like a different person." So she's like, "I'm going to start eating what you start eating, because things look change for you."
wow, so you
So
look different than you used to.
yeah, yeah. Even he told me, he said, "You look so feminine these days."
Really? That must have felt good to
Yeah,
hear. All right. Well,
yeah.
so
It was like, it's strange.
it's
It's like
strange.
he's noticing all these things that you're saying in the book. He notices, like he comes around and says it, even though he hasn't read it.
Well, maybe he did read it. No, I'm kidding. He didn't read it. So, what happened? Did you ever get back together? You're still separated or?
Um. So what happened was that he didn't want to have sex with me, because he knew deep down that it's not that he was repelled by me now. It's like he knew that it would bring us closer. It seems like he was holding on to that piece for a long time. And that would, I don't know, I would be upset about that. I would be really upset. Like, I would try to, like, I would be like, okay, I'm upset, and this has nothing to do with him. So I'm going to do things that make me happy. But then it wouldn't last. And a few days later, I was upset again. So eventually one day he said, "What's going on? Like, you look different." Like, I couldn't hide it. My face looked different. I looked upset and angry, but I don't want to dump that on him. But I was clear. I said to him, I said, "I just want to have sex." And he was like, "What?" I was just like, "Yeah, that's all." So he asked me a couple of times, like, and I said, "Nothing, I'm okay." And then I said, "It's just that I want to have sex with you." And he said, "Well, no, I can't." And he's like, "I can't do that. I can't go there again. Then the things get complicated, and it's already complicated that we're living together, and it's not clear." And I said, I understand. It's okay. I understand. I respect you. It's just that I want you. So um that's why I feel that way. That's why you see that in my face. And I don't know, like a couple of days have passed by, and he was like, no. And then a couple of days later, he was just like, okay, let's do it.
That is awesome. That was
And
vulnerable too, right? To say that to him.
he was vulnerable, and I felt like I didn't want to go there because I know that you're saying you let the man pursue, you let the man go for you. And I was just like, he's not ready, he's not ready, he's not ready. I knew he wasn't ready. And I was so ready. So I don't know.
Well, it sounds like yeah, you were honoring yourself, and he asked 3 times, it sounds like, before you even, but it was very authentic. This is how I'm feeling. I miss having sex with you. So I love that. And then that he found that irresistible, it sounds like.
He found that irresistible. He told me, he said, oh my God, he said, I can't get that out. He's like, this whole month that you've been here, I have known. He's like, I know that you wanted that. And I couldn't get that out of my head. He's like, that is sexier than anything else in the world, to know that there's a woman upstairs that wants me.
I love it. I love it. So it got pretty steamy at your house, it sounds like.
Yeah. So he put all these rules. He said, okay, we'll have sex, but we will not sleep together. And, like all these rules that would make limits more firm. And he just crossed them all. He just threw them out the window.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
He couldn't stick to his own rules because
No,
he was so attracted to you.
yeah, he's very attracted to me. He says that I drive him crazy, that he can't think about anything else. He's like, I can't. So he actually left a couple days ago. He has to work in another place for 2 weeks. And I was really afraid of this trip because he said that he finally was going to get some time away. And I knew that he wanted to like meet other people and stuff. And now he's made the trip shorter. He calls, he texts, he says that he can't wait to come back, how much he misses his family. And like, I have full trust. And to this day, my friends are still asking me, where are we at? Are we together? And I don't know. I can't ask that. I haven't asked that. And I don't care. We'll see when he's ready. We'll go with that. But my friends want to know. They're like, what's your state? Like, I don't even know. And I said, I don't either. I'm not asking. And he actually told me a week ago, he said, I'm really annoyed because all my friends and family are constantly asking me, like, what's the deal? Or what are you going to do? He's like, I don't know. Like, I like what we have right now. And I'm really bothered that everybody has to know so much about our relationship. It's my relationship and it is what it is. And I like it.
Wow. So you sound very confident about this relationship, even though everyone's asking about the status, his friends, your friends, and you're like, I don't know, but I think in some ways you do know. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I feel like I do know, but I don't have it written on paper. Like, we're still married, but I don't have his wordly, his words committed to me. Like, I don't have any of that. We haven't addressed how he decided to separate. Like, we haven't addressed any of that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I know there's no way he's living. There's no way he's living.
yeah, right. Right. That's so the answer is you're married and there's no way he's leaving. That's how you feel in your heart today, right? You're not scared that he's going to leave. I could hear it on you. And it sounds like he went on this work trip, but otherwise you sleep in the same bed. You have physical intimacy. Is this right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So, yeah. So, yeah, I kind of want to say, like, how did you know? What was the moment you thought, okay, these skills are really, I'm going to save my marriage. I'm going to fix my marriage.
Well, I was doing them just to see if it would work. And it changed me more than it changed him. And that's when I knew they were working, because it changed me, how I felt. My fear went away. My desire to control went away. And I felt comfortable and different. And I felt like every time I was sad and upset that, gee, like I have to take care of myself now because I'm really, really sad.
Yeah.
And it was shocking that I was like, wow, I'm alone, or even if I'm not alone, even if I'm with him, it would be the same thing. I have to take care of myself. So that's when I knew the skills were working.
Wow. So I love this. So you've changed and more than him, but has he also changed?
Oh yeah, he's also changed. He's more of a man. He's taking
Oh,
care of everything. And then even when he wasn't here, he decided to buy a piece of land. And I was petrified. I didn't know anything about it. And then I get something on email that we both have to sign. He put it in both of our names again. He didn't want to do any of that separation through that stuff. And I was just like, he must at least, I felt like, even though he doesn't want to be together, at least he feels comfortable knowing that what's ours, it's ours and our kids. And he trusts that, which is a big step.
oh yeah. That must have felt good. You found hope in that, I'm sure, in just seeing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
hopeful. Yeah.
Wow.
He's wonderful. He's wonderful. He's been making, because I had a lot of stress about making lunch and dinner, because he changes his diet from day to day and he doesn't eat what I make. So now he's taking care of all the kids. When he's here, he's always grilling, he's always cooking, he's driving everywhere, because I told him that I want to do all these hikes and all these things that I'm doing with friends. So he's like happy to take them. He's like, just go do your thing. We'll see you later. Like he's awesome. He will do everything. Like he doesn't need me to do anything. He's happy to do it all as long as I say thank you. so,
Oh.
so
So, and what is your relationship like now? How is your marriage today?
it's sweet. It's like we're really excited to be with each other, and like the sex is really good. It's not like it dies down after 23 years. It's really good.
Awesome.
It's
Awesome.
and it just feels like we're like when we're not when we're not having sex, we want to be holding hands or touching, or like every time he leaves, like the other day I went to buy my daughter's a bathing suit. She really wanted a really nice expensive bathing suit, and when I came back I told him that we had gone one, and he like came in for a kiss because he knew that I was going to say thank you already. So
Oh,
he already mentioned.
he's like, "Where's my kiss?" I'm
Yes,
gonna go.
he knows that every time I do something, I'm going to say thank you. We're so excited. And then he told me, he said, hey, like you've been buying all this stuff for the girls. Like, I really want you to get some of those expensive bathing suits too, because all the ones you have are from Target. He's like, I want you to get some really nice ones. So I did, even though I felt like I don't need them. I have plenty, but I did because he said,
You received, and he wants to see you in those expensive bathing suits. It sounds like
yes.
it must feel great. Wow, it
Things
sounds
feel great.
wonderful.
I feel like everybody should know about this. Things feel great. And things have turned around in a month. In a month, we went from thinking about how are we going to find two houses to like we need to buy a bigger house, because when we go back to Utah we want a bigger space, and he's taking care of that. Before I felt like it was on me. He said, I'm going to take care of that, but not till August. So it feels stressful. I have to wait. I'd rather know where we're going, but I respect that that's where he wants to do it.
So you've become this patient person.
Yeah, I'm this patient person. I
Did
like to
he?
see what happens.
You're
I
gonna
like
see
to
what
see the
happens.
magic. Yeah.
Because you're enjoying the magic. So has he ever said anything like what happened to you? Or does he acknowledge in any way that you have become a different
Yeah.
woman?
He said I can tell. He said I trust you. I feel like I'm emotionally safe now. What have you done? And I told him, I said, well, I started reading these books, but they're more geared towards women, because in life you really can only change yourself. You can never like do this or do that or go together. And he said, well, keep reading because I like it.
Which is really him saying, good job. You've done something amazing,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. That must have felt good to hear.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It must have felt good to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is true that it's for me. It's for me to read and for me to feel empowered. And sometimes I feel down, so I started reading the books again, because I feel like if I'm actively reading or listening to the podcast or taking notes, that I feel like, okay, I feel more empowered. I know what to do. I'm learning I feel like the work is beginning now. Now is when I have to change the dynamic, and all the little problems that came up before are starting to arise now that things are peaceful, and I have to find a way around them. So I want to be aware.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hear that it's just an ongoing video game that you're playing, like learning how to deal with the things that used to be big problems in the old days, and you're learning how to deal with them the empowered way. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
What do you think you would tell yourself if you could go back in time and say what you know now?
I don't know. I had to find your book in order to change. I don't think I would have changed otherwise. He asked me to be respectful, and I felt that that was horrifying. He asked me to obey him at one point, and I felt so upset about that term, obey you, that I'm not from those ages. I'm a modern woman. I don't obey anybody.
Yes.
But I understand it in a different way. I don't know what I would tell myself. Read them and start doing this, or find the opposite of everything you've done. If I wouldn't have found this book, I wouldn't have changed. And if you wouldn't have left me, I wouldn't have changed.
Wow. So the pain was a good teacher.
Yeah, that's true. The pain was really strong, but it was really good.
Yeah. And it sounds like you wouldn't trade it now.
Yeah.
Didn't you get mad that you were the one that had to do all the work, though?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said, didn't you get mad that you were the one that had to do all the work? Oh, I lost your audio.
Oh, I said yes. I was very resentful.
Yes.
I felt like there's a lot of things that he has done that he hasn't said I'm sorry for, that he hasn't corrected. So I was very resentful about that. And I couldn't bring them up at the time because we were not together. So it doesn't matter if I'm resentful or no, we're done. We're separated.
Yes.
And so I started just doing the work, and the resentment just starts going away on its own. It leaves on its own. It's weird. Little by little, as things work out, he sees his part. It's like I let him see his part now. Before I wouldn't.
Yeah, I love it. What's your tip for a woman who is where you were, where her husband says he's done and she knows he means it, and she wants to create what you have now, where they have great sex and he is never going to leave. She feels like he's never going to leave, and they're always having to touch and kiss all the time. What should she do?
I think my tip would be to be the anchor, that things go up and down, and you just know where you're going, and you know your skills. You keep working at them. You feel empowered with them. So just be the anchor for you and for him when you get turmoil, when you get upset, when things are not great, when you feel like you're sinking. Just stay there and keep going, because it works. I'm so shocked that it works.
It is shocking, isn't it? Yeah. You didn't think you would be here 4 months ago.
No.
Yeah.
I was really upset. I thought we would be separated. I thought we would find a way to move into different houses. I didn't think I would be here.
You thought you were going to end up divorced.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is very inspiring, first of all, to hear your story. And I love the way you explained it and really brought us to the scenes with you. And it seems like an incredible accomplishment to me that you have fixed your family and your children. How are your children reacting to?
My children are wonderful. My daughter, she's 12. She's learning when anybody storms, or when my son storms, she's learning how to let it go and then approach him in a different way. And my son is more peaceful. He still gets into all those, I don't know, like rages, or he acts like that. Recently, he asked if we could hang out his guitar in his room. So I asked his workers to come and hang it up. And when he came, he didn't want to get off his phone. He didn't want to get off the game, and he didn't want to tell them what he wanted it. And I was really upset. I was like, this is your responsibility. So, but I told him nicely, and he addressed it. And then when I talked to my husband about it later, he said, oh, that's really nice. But he's like, and I'm glad you understand that he's resistant, because that's part of who he is, right? That's part of growing up. He's resistant, but he's becoming a man little by little. So I'm glad that you didn't give him a lot of guilt about that.
Wow. So you felt proud as a mom, it sounds like, about the way you handled it.
Yes, I feel proud, and I feel like I have to guide him. Like, it's a big job now. I can't control him. I have to inspire him, and it's harder.
It's harder, but you are succeeding with it.
Yes, but I have to think things through, and I have to see how he's going to react, and I have to maybe take a day or two. I'm like, okay, how am I going to guide him through this one? Because I want him to be successful too.
Yes, yes. So I hear you saying you're a better mom now.
Yes, I'm a better mom.
Wow, that must feel so
There
good.
hasn't yet, nobody has raised their voice in a month and a half, or since 4 months ago. Nobody has raised their voice at all. We've all been living
Nobody.
together for nobody.
How is this possible? That sounds impossible.
Nobody has raised their voice at all.
What a success story. Well, this is incredible. It sounds, yeah, it sounds amazing and wonderful. And I'm just very impressed with you. I'd like to give you an award. Here's your wife award and your mom award.
Thank you.
Because
Thank you.
you've accomplished something really remarkable. And I'm very inspired to hear. I'm sure everyone who's listening is also so inspired. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Laura.
Something big is happening on the Laura Doyle campus, and you're invited. In January, I hosted a free 5-day Adored Wife Challenge, and thousands of women joined to take the practical steps to make their marriages last and thrive. And even I was amazed at the astounding results they got. We're about to start the 5-day Adored Wife Challenge again, where I'll share my best stuff for free. And the coaches are hosting a week of pre-challenge inspiration starting on August 15th, 2022. So register now at lauradoyle.org/challenge so you don't miss any of the action, because this only happens twice a year. Join us on our mission to end world divorce and go to lauradoyle.org/challenge. I'll see you there.
It's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice. Yeah, it's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice of the week.
And now it's time for the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award. And the advice that has me displeased this week was sent to me by a Laura Doyle relationship coach who writes, "Wow, this one was shocking for me." It was for me too. I'll tell you all about that in a moment. But first, here's your anonymous shout out, coach, for sending me this bunk to make fun of. Thanks for the love and for the great contribution to the podcast. And in the column that she sent, a husband writes, "My wife insists that I wear a shirt when working from home, even when I'm not on camera. And she even says the day I appear shirtless, even by accident, she will file for divorce." And he goes on to give some detail and asks the columnist what he should do. And the columnist responds with, blah, 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 blah. And then she says, "So your decision is, which principle do you want to serve? Personal autonomy or marital harmony?" And then the columnist says, and I quote, "Put on a shirt. Put on a shirt." That's her advice. And the coach summarizes this claptrap very nicely by writing, "The wife is trying to control the husband's work attire by threatening divorce. And the advice columnist says the husband should cave to keep the marriage." And then the coach adds, "Imagine if that were reversed and the husband thought she must wear lingerie at home or he'll divorce her. Can you imagine the rage?" Well said, coach. It's never fun to have someone else trying to control you, as this husband's letter illustrates. So it's jarring to hear the columnist co-sign this wife's control by saying, "Just put on a shirt," with no acknowledgement of his need for autonomy. Her message to him is to suck it up and change how he dresses to keep the peace. But having been the wife in this scenario, I can tell you that it didn't lead to peace when my husband sucked it up to do what I said. It led to distance, resentment, and me just finding the next thing that I wanted him to change to make me happy. In other words, he's just going down a dark alley where nobody is happy. His wife won't be happy until she decides to be happy, no matter what he wears. And for that reason, the advice from this column to, quote, put on a shirt is the very, very worst relationship advice I have heard all week. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, I'll talk about what to do if your husband is nicer to other women. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that my husband is so good at killing flies in the house by flicking them with a dish towel that he is known in these parts as the Great Fly Killer.